Dennis, welcome. It's such a pleasure to speak with you today.
Pleasure to speak with you, Andrea.
Dennis, you're pioneering sustainability in the dental industry. What brings you the most fulfillment in this mission, and where did this all start?
So, approximately 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to join Implantant as a CEO, a family-owned company, where we are, as in our region, the largest service provider of consumables, equipment, patient management system, everything you can, considering that dental clinic would like to use in order to operate a dental clinic, except for the actual treatment that the dentist or the hygienist or the clinic assistant are doing at the practice. In our family, we have this passion for wave surfing, and when you do wave surfing, always or most people are actually also having, once a year we have what we call International Surfing Day, where you're collecting garbage on the beach, and that's kind of a tradition. And in the end of the day, you're kind of making a barbecue, and it's a nice community, and then you upload this picture to one platform that that people that have this passion for surfing, and then of course they want clean water, hence why they are collecting garbage on the beach. And you wouldn't imagine how much you're actually collecting, just 10 minutes on the beach. There are literally plastic everywhere, and I guess most people have seen that on TV and so on. So that's a family thing. Then a few weeks after, I got one of my good colleagues, Heidi, that came into my office and said, "Dennis, do you know how many container we have sold of plastic gloves?" And that's because plastic glove is used at the dental practices. And I said, "No, I don't know." And she of course said it was something good from the commercial side of it. It was many containers. It was kind of an event and campaign where we are kind of pushing that, and that's part of the business, selling plastic gloves. That's in the consumable category. But that made me reflect that collecting the garbage, knowing that I'm also now in a company where we actually also are doing something that is not necessarily good for the environment. On the other hand, the dentist also need the gloves, and the hygienist and clinic assistant, because if they don't have it, there could come bacteria in the patient mouth, and that's not needed either. So for a health standpoint, it's really also important. And then that reminded me that maybe we could do something here, as we were a very large service provider for the dental practice. Let's, instead of just talking about it and all this nice CSR reporting that the companies are doing, then instead, what could we really set the scene here, doing something different, kind of move the industry? Led me to, I remember that I have had a talk with one dentist that actually had a patient that were the leading professors in sustainability. And in our country, and then that lead me to I'll call her, and maybe he can, how should I tackle this one? And I invited him to our company, showed him what we were doing, put him down at our warehouse where he saw 30,000 different products, articles that we were having, and then he became interested as well, because he could see with our impact in our industry, we could, of course, really start a movement within the dental industry. And then we formed kind of a steering committee. I then invited other actors in the industry to participate, because it didn't just needed to be us as a company, but I also wanted a dental union, other people involved in this. And then that then led to, we then recruited, we started with, students that were, studying innovation and sustainability. They are now engineer that now are, colleagues today. So it led to kind of several different sustainability initiatives. How can we improve the life cycles also for equipment use? So not only consumable, but several other things. So that's actually how we kind of started this process, actually coming from wave surfing. And I say sometimes it's what you're passionate about. So that led me to that. And then now for us, sustainability, is seeing it not just as a product, but we are seeing it as something more. It's also sustainability, in leadership, in employees, sustainable customers. It's a really, 360-degree views in terms of running a company and with all the actors that are in the company, external and internal. So, and today I'm really proud that I have colleagues that are now training the new dentists in sustainability. How can they have more sustainable clinic at the university? But actually, it also means that it is also a logic business. If you think we are actually a company training our future customers in the universities, how they should deal with having a more sustainable practice. So this is actually how it's all started. Today we are B Corp certified, which means that we are, taking the highest standard when it comes to sustainability, but in not just the product itself, but also, having sustainable leadership, resilience that I know you also are talking about, Andrea, and as well as extremely high customer satisfaction. I can see our satisfaction score, it's extremely high, but it's also something we always are really curious about. What can we learn? What can we not see when we are doing, the measurement? But what's really behind? How can we improve? So really be curious about that. And again, that's also sustainability in its more long term, as well as employee, where we kind of found that the ingredients in terms of having really motivated people and it's stolen with pride from a great philosopher, Morten Albrecht, where he's sitting at the hospital interviewing those people that are really close to pass away. What are kind of the most meaningful things in life? And unfortunately enough, and we have maybe all experienced that, when we kind of feel that it's something big things happen in our life, then we are really, really focused in terms of what is really important in life. And so I think this came really some good studies around this, and it comes down to three things: purpose in life, and as well as personal development and the feel of belonging. And then that initiated then a process to touch those three things. What does it mean from leadership? How can we set, the structure around this, and not too much structure that we kill creativity is? And so what we then decided is that we kind of try to design the workplace for fun, because fun, we know when we people are happy, and of course everybody can have a bad day at work, something private can happen as well as something in work, but we are really trying to decide for fun. That also means that if, a good example now, just been in Spain for a couple of days now, when I was down in Spain, my biggest focus were how do I put joy into their life for my colleagues in Spain, and that could be attention, but it could also be as easy as creating an atmosphere where people are talking to each other, having fun. Similar to I'm here in Copenhagen today, where the focus have been, I could feel that there was a sense of I needed to put a bit of energy. I put high music on, stuff like that. You need to be creative, and of course we're also training our leaders to get fun into your work environment. We have a lot of initiative around that. So personally, I'm involved as also volunteer work chairman for Dental Health Without Borders, and that brings me tons of motivations that I also put back to running a private company.
Wonderful. You've covered so much I want to dive into a couple of points.
Sure.
Can you highlight what are the sustainable options that you have found and that are now being deployed?
There's not such things as a sustainable product, because when you're producing something, then of course it's not sustainable. But then you can talk about is something less or more sustainable. Take this one I'm drinking of now. That's a good example. I know cartoon is better than a plastic one. A decision you can take as a clinic owner to that decide remove the plastic and then replace it with a cartoon. Because it's more sustainable. So this is something, where we can of course consult our customers, to take the right choice. And it's still up to the customer to take that choice. But what we are then giving them is advice where we have built a huge database in terms of the good choice, what is more sustainable than others. And since we are now, and that's a good example when we did that initiative many years ago, when we decided, as the first one I've heard about in the dental industry, that recruited engineers for looking at product life cycles. We did that 7 years ago. Now what we are thinking about, okay, what's next? But that means that now we have this big database of different products where we can see what products are more sustainable than others. We can of course take a conscious decision in terms of which partner we would like to use, which supplier we would like to have in our warehouse. And that's a conscious decision in terms of what is the packaging. And that's again a partnership. We cannot do it alone. We are doing it with our shipping company as well. Actually, when you're doing life cycle for product, what you know, people normally just talk about the product itself. But when our engineer are doing those really factual life cycle, what we can see is the one that have biggest impact is actually most often transportation and packaging. So that's stuff that we have done. We should also train our customers to demand more, because this is when you're seeing also when people are buying more sustainable product as private consumer. If there isn't a demand, nobody will produce it. So we are of course also training our customers to have a higher demand. Hence why I'm so proud that I have colleagues that are now, when you become a dentist in Copenhagen or in Aarhus, other side of Denmark, you also need part of what you are educated at is also in sustainability. We have advocated that to other universities. So now I know that Norway is also looking into it, Sweden is also looking into it. So it's about creating those waves. As a company, we have this saying of that we rather, instead of just talk, we want to show it. We also have, software of the next generation patient management software, and that's a good example. That also spring out from some good conversations that we have. What can we do with that software in terms of improving overall health? So we are in the dental business, but what we actually have learned today as part of a PhD study and being the steering committee also ourselves with the university is that there is a close correlation between parodontitis and several healthcare diseases. And then of course, if you can cure parodontitis, that's probably a lot more cheaper also for a society than if you get some healthcare diseases like diabetes, some type of cancer, than actually treat the cancer or diabetes, just being sure that you are really treating parodontitis. So that's a good example. And how we are doing that is when we then fund this PhD study, we have this huge database that we have got approved that we actually can do this correlation and look at the patient data. It's the biggest clinical database actually in the world we have now on 2.6 million patient data that we are looking on between this correlation between parodontitis and then up to, I think it's, in our database, we have more than 50 healthcare diseases. Of course, we need to partnering up with the universities so they can research in our database to create, and get evidence for, how do we improve overall health. I can also just see the fact how our company have evolved over time. Our turnover have done like this. Our EBIT have done like this. Matter of, colleagues I've got is like this as well. So everything have increased. So it also makes sense for, if I'm lucky enough, I'm very pleased that I'm part of a family-owned company. But even if I were owned by private equity, it would make sense as well.
Absolutely. Given that you have a very specific leadership philosophy, if there would be one or two words that could capture your leadership philosophy, what would those words be?
It's definitely something about kind of this feel of belonging in terms of love, trust, fun. That's really, really critical. There needs to be a trust that people can come and say whatever. And then there is the second element that I will say I'm hearing from my colleague when they're very frank with me is that I'm very, very ambitious when it comes to what we can create together. And I also use, some people will say, maybe too much time on personal development when it comes to all my colleagues. And every quarter, I take offsite with my leadership. How do we become better leaders? There is always this danger. Now I know everything. That now I'm, and then that moment you just go down, and it goes really, really fast. So because I'm ambitious for for what we can do together in terms of creating great solutions for our customers, but also have a great impact in our society in what we are doing. It's drilled down to I'm also very ambitious for my colleague in terms of their personal development.
And outside of work, I know you spoke about surfing.
Yeah.
What brings you joy outside of work?
Surfing is a big part of it. I'm kind of the person that gets energy being together with people. So what gives me energy is being together with good friends, family, of course. That really brings me energy. Wife, my children, something that conversations, good food, stuff like that. And the good part of this is that when I say friends, that's also actually become, colleagues at work. I know some people saying that you should be very careful having friends from your work. And for me, that's the only way I can lead, really knowing my colleagues. If I'm not knowing them really good, then it's really difficult for me to lead. I've also, this philosophy is also something that have developed for me. During the years, I became a leader when I was 26, and I did so many mistakes. I was far too young for a big team at that time. I remember how I measured people and didn't have this value-based leadership as I have today. So the workplace is something you really look forward to go to. And still, we are there 2/3 of our awake time, so it needs to be fun.
And if there would be a recipe for living more joyfully, what would be the three main ingredients in your view?
Your mind, definitely. So I think we can do tremendous thing just how we are viewing things. That could be customer problems because, of course, as a company, sometimes you do mistake or you get a challenge, stuff is happening. This is a new learning experiment. What will we do here? Sometimes you can just use the word learning experiment, and then people just relax a bit. Even though it can be a really, really difficult one, and it can be, big customer complaint if you are, a service agent. How do you tackle this? You just control your mind, be positive. If you are not pleased for your life, then something is really, really wrong. I advocate more that people are doing more volunteer works because this is really giving you something back as well. It's not only you're helping others, but you're actually helping yourself as well.
You mentioned earlier that you've made some mistakes in your early days, if a young leader is listening today to our conversation, what advice would you give them in order to make sure that they flourish as a human being, but they also create a flourishing culture?
I was a leader and that's many years ago in a US company. There was a tendency that it was very KPI driven. That when people start to trying to measure everything into KPIs, and it's a key performance indicators, but it doesn't tell you what's really, really wrong. It just gives you an indication. And sometimes people are using that wrongly. And I did that. Instead of, I was too hard, too focused on the KPIs instead of focus on what is really behind. And you learn so much when you are close to your reports per day. Today, if it's a leadership team or when you start as a leader, it's the contributors that are doing the job. Be really closely, understand them, understand that, their motivation, understand their different characters, read a lot of books in psychology in terms of motivation, but also in terms of understanding people, and then focus on, more go behind what's really driving this. Be curious instead of leading after KPIs. That's definitely one. And also probably why I bring this up is because I was leader in a big corporation, a middleman leader, where much were focused on KPIs. And today this is where people get burned out and are really not having the joy in their life. Then there's another thing. Really understand what you're good at and what you're bad at and what you're good at. Be yourself, be your true self. Okay, well, now I'm a leader, now I need to change. Why? Be your true self. There was a reason why they picked you, and go with that feeling instead. And then more think about, okay, how will I be, what's the best version of me in 5 years from now, instead of look at trying to take some other role model.
I'm a believer that joy should actually be a metric we should be paying more attention to. And I was curious, in what way you look at joy within your organization? Is it something that you measure? And if so, how do you do it?
Yes. We are both measuring it, but it's also, of course, a feeling. So what we are doing in terms of the measurement, we have, similar to us said, we focus on purpose. Does it give meaningful in life, and the feel of belonging and personal development. So within the category of the feel of belonging, we measuring also, is it fun? So this is something we are doing. You have one thing that is fun for you, and I have another thing, and my developer have a completely other thing, or my service agent or warehouse or whatever. So that's something we are measuring once a year, as well as personal development, and that can also tie it into to fun as well. And again, purpose is the final one. And then we take some new initiative involved the team, the colleagues themselves. We all know that the leadership cannot do it alone. It's also the people that are, all the colleagues, all the employees in the group that need to be part of this. So we have actually just have it here before summer, and then we are discussing in the departments what the score is. So, the general, I have, one kind of town hall meetings where we are reviewing it, and then we are putting it down in the departments as well. And it's different from department and department. We have an extremely high satisfaction in our employees. From a net promoter score, most of our people are actually rating us 10. I think the last one was 72% of all our colleagues give us 10 out of a score from 1 to 10, extremely satisfied. But what's fun is that there is a close correlation also. When that going up, our customer satisfaction goes up as well. But I will also say it's also something that it cannot be measured alone. So it's also very, very important that you kind of feel the temperature when you're out there. And that's again, you as a leader, you should spend 95% of your time talking to people instead of behind the desk. And
Yes.
that's something I'm really trying to practice. If I'm trying to, should do something, where I need to sit and work, I know, how can I get it out? How can I get somebody else to do it? And then I would like to, of course, sometimes review it and look at it and put my own thoughts into it. But I'm trying to get it out in the organization, because I know that at least 90% of my time should be talking to people instead of contribute myself. If I'm a leader.
I love that. So on these beautiful words, Dennis, I want to thank you immensely for all the insights you have shared. It's been incredible speaking with you today. Thank you so much. And I wish you continued success in all your pursuits.
Nice speaking to you.